now I can confirm that something is going on. About an hour after I got the initial reports, I've found two pieces of news about it through YouTube. Here's one.
I think that we have never been in a more difficult situation than today. Why did I say this? The Pristina regime is trying, presenting itself as a victim, to use the moods in the world, the Serbian president said. Serbian soldiers were seen in the gazeboed area on the border between Kosovo and Serbia. Serbia is pulling the army to the borders of Kosovo, including combat aircraft. In Kosovo, cars are not allowed into areas.
današnjem videoklipu razmatramo mogućnost da će predsjednik Srbije održati svoje obećanje dato Srbima sa Kosova i Metohije na prošlogodišnjem sastanku u Kuršumliji i kako će to sprovesti u delo. Naime, predsjednik Srbije na odluku prištinskih vlasti o zameni srpskih ličnih karata za kosovske, za sve one koji imaju ove dokumente izdate od strane srpske policije, a od 1. augusta ove godine žele da uđu na prostor takozvanog Kosova, kao i zameni registracionih tablica sa oznakom KM, odnosno Kosovska Mitrovica, izdatih takođe od strane MUP-a Srbije, za registarske tablice sa oznakom RKS, odnosno Republika Kosovo, što je izazvalo revolt kod srpskog stanovništva i da zbog toga neće dozvoliti novu akciju Oluja kojom je srpsko stanovništvo proterano iz Republike Hrvatske 1995. godine. Ako predsjednik Srbije bude od reči i reši da odbrani srpsko stanovništvo, u današnjem videoklipu razmatramo mogućnost da će predsjednik Srbije održati svoje obećanje dato Srbima sa Kosova i Metohije na prošlogodišnjem sastanku u Kuršumliji i kako će to sprovesti u delo. Naime, predsjednik Srbije na odluku prištinskih vlasti o zameni srpskih ličnih karata za kosovske, za sve one koji imaju ove dokumente izdate od strane srpske policije, a od 1. augusta ove godine žele da uđu na prostor takozvanog Kosova, kao i zameni registracionih tablica sa oznakom KM, odnosno Kosovska Mitrovica, izdatih takođe od strane MUP-a Srbije, za registarske tablice sa oznakom RKS, odnosno Republika Kosovo, što je izazvalo revolt kod srpskog stanovništva i da zbog toga neće dozvoliti novu akciju Oluja kojom je srpsko stanovništvo proterano iz Republike Hrvatske 1995. godine. Ako predsjednik Srbije bude od reči i reši da odbrani srpsko stanovništvo koje neće pristati da im se sa vozila skidaju registarske tablice izdate od strane Republike Srbije, kao ni na zamenu ličnih karata izdate u MUP Srbije sa kosovskim ličnim kartama, onda će sigurno doći do sukoba između kosovskih snaga bezbednosti i Srba na severu Kosova i Metohije. U tom slučaju će Srbija morati da zaštiti goloruki narod na Kosovu i Metohiji upotrebom sile, a u tom slučaju jedinice srpskih bezbednostnih snaga koje će prve preteći u pomoć golorukom srpskom narodu su jedinice specijalne namene, pre svega 72. brigade za specijalne namene i pripadnici MUP-a Srbije, odnosno njene vojne jedinice žandarmerije. U nastavku ovog video rada ću vam predstaviti njihovu uvežbanost i šta posjeduju složeni borbeni sistema sada.
Here are all the news articles on YouTube, so let's try Twitter. No idea how to do anything with Twitter, but I suppose modern times call for modern resources. For those new to the channel, the top right is an internet traffic tool, which can be fairly well used to measure what people are talking about in the world view or in the world at large. How could Kosovo get to the northern part of Serbia? Shouldn't it be the Kosovo army plans to attack north to the southern parts of Serbia? Though I don't know my map that well. Like here is Kosovo planning to attack the northern parts of Serbia. That seemed like a mistranslation. So there's a lot of talk on Twitter, but not much on YouTube, which just goes to show that YouTube seems to be more professional with its reporting, or at least more careful. From what I can see here, it seems the situation is indeed for the most part normal. But there seems to be 2 roadblocks made by the Serbian government on the very northern parts of the country of Kosovo, and there seems to be some tension in the word sphere, but it seems like nobody is actually doing anything truly hostile. This could escalate, though. So these kinds of blocks, this seems to be more along the lines of a disagreement on the police level than on the military level, but I could be wrong. These do indeed seem to be civilians doing the roadblocks. By the way, this is probably my most watched live stream. It's possible that they'll go with the Russian way, but this seems, based on what I'm reading here, this seems more like a police situation than a military situation. I'm not sure naturally, but this does indeed seem more like a police than a military situation. Kosovo would get very little benefit if it attacked the Serbs. Serbs are not wanting to escalate as the first country after Russia. If China escalates and, say, Belarus joins and the situation spirals out into an all-out world war, then yes, Serbia will probably join in. Like will most countries, but while everybody's focused on Russia, choosing that moment to escalate with Kosovo would be looking pretty bad for the Serbs. It would make them very, very openly a Russian puppet. So it seems to me that Kosovo is not in a position where they'd like that option. Sorry, Serbia is not in a position where they'd like that option either. Once again, the same video. We've seen that one already. This is what it looks like to me. Something to do with the license plate thing where Kosovo's government demanded that all the cars registered in Kosovo have a license plate given out by the Kosovo authorities. And the Serbians opposing this, and then there are these kinds of things where now cars that still have the old Serbian plates, because Kosovo government isn't known for being very organized. So it's taken them a long time to do things like new government license plates since the Balkan War. So now that they're going with a new set of license plates, it seems like people still using the Serbian license plate tend to get robbed. Which to me paints the picture of a police and not a military thing. There seems to be very little in terms of military to fight over because Kosovo is indeed independent, while police matters of how to administer this new independent realm without causing a new war with your neighbors is indeed important. So it seems like if Serbia is to have a war with Kosovo, which seems unlikely but possible, it would be about taking the strong Serbian populated regions in the north, which would be roughly what Russia is trying to do in Ukraine. Thank you for the info. One of the chatters said, I live 30 minutes from the from Kosovo border. There were a few ambulances running toward border and reported one person died. This is why we do these chat things, because people can actually share information here without having to worry about Twitter and stuff like that. I hope the Balkan War doesn't start again, because my weed supply will be shortened if the Balkan War starts again. Then to order my smokes in bulk from the Balkan. Cheap and very good quality. Always. For 7 years now. No, it's not. No, finish. Well, it's true. New policy of not accepting Serbian documents equally to Kosovo could be used by these as a casus belli. I mean, theoretically, yes. Woo, tortilla tavataan. We shall spell out the tortilla. So anyway, yes, the fact that Kosovo is going to a new passport system and new car licensing system could be used as a casus belli, but the casus belli is pretty weak. I mean, this seems more like something where the casus belli, the right to war, could be used as a minor thing like overlapping government demands and stuff like that, but not actually like true territorial invasion. But if Serbia does a flash invasion of Kosovo and takes the borders regions with Serbian populations in them, then dislodging the Serbs from such a border domain would be excessively difficult, even with very large air campaign. Yeah, northern Kosovo, as far as I understand, has. Yeah, here's somebody who made the same connection. Yeah, the northern parts of Kosovo have a large Serbian minority. Turkey. No longer to be identified with the bird domain. And thus the giant dinosaur bird dies. Nobody wants to be the emu. So this is. Okay. I have the understanding that yeah, that's. I was somewhat unaware of that. My understanding was that the northern parts of Kosovo are heavily populated by Serbian people. Hello to Ukraine. I've sent you guys some stuff for the war. Not much, but what little I could do. Before the war, I was very heavily on the side of the East. Okay, makes sense. Before the war, I was heavily on the side of the, let's call them 9/11 truthers, Russians, the counterculture, you know, any word you want to use to describe the people who were opposed to this Western dominion. But just as much as I was against the Iraq war and protesting it, I'll be against the Ukraine war and protesting it. The fact that, for the most part, the 9/11 truthers or Russians or what have you are more correct than the West doesn't change anything about the fact that when they are wrong, they are wrong. You know, when they were right, they were the little country trying to oppose the mass dominion of the New World Order. Then we needed to support them. When their battlefield morale breaks and they cannot hold their line and start to attack randomly forward, then what we need to do is consider them to be in a state of moral shock and treat them as such. No. Kosovo, I think, is trying to get into NATO, but is not in NATO. Serbia is fairly staunchly pro-Russian. Yeah, roughly what I remember. It was like, my neighbor is getting drunk again and slamming against the wall. Nice guy. The pleasures of living in a socialist paradise. When you don't completely conform, they will make your life difficult. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Not to be rude, but I think Yugoslavia was a better idea than the regional republics. Not saying Yugoslavia wasn't a bad idea, but in terms of size of region, resources available, population available, and so on and so forth, Yugoslavia seems a better choice than, say, little ones. Yes, there are NATO troops in Kosovo. That's why I'm not considering this very likely. Yeah, the way I see it, we should aim to make nations that are not completely autarky unto themselves, but very close. Yep. Incredible how easy it is to actually steal a couple of $100 billion. Yeah. So it seems like there's nothing more to report. The situation is tense. Locals, quoting Zik here, say that they believe if something is to happen, it'll happen at midnight or early morning. So for now, there does not seem to be a probability of something happening within the next few hours. Everybody's moving troops, trying to use diplomacy. Serbians are trying to convince the Kosovoans that not to do the license plate registration law, which is causing this tension to erupt, and UN peacekeepers are moving around trying to get into good positions. Civilians are, along with police from both sides, blocking any access roads to the other side so no provocateurs can get across. Now, if Serbia invades Kosovo, they might be able to take parts, but it seems unlikely. It won't be a large conflict. Yeah, that's what happens when your empire collapses. Can you imagine California in 2050s, how full it will be of all the different nationalities and how few Americans there will be? Yes, there are some shots at the border. There have been gunfire. There is preliminary reports that somebody somewhere died. And situation seems a bit tense, but probability, according to the locals here, of the conflict breaking out is low. So I think I will do a third broadcast if this does break out into war, but I think I've said enough, so I might want to leave this on so a few guys can change information here and we can actually get some kind of dialogue going with the locals. It's not much, but it's better to have a local in the chat talking than me talking here. So I will most likely be back in a few hours. I will be back in a few hours and I will let you know if war actually broke out. There we go. Now it's better. So I will be back in a few hours to report if war actually broke out. So if you keep an eye on my channel, I'll let you know later today or at the latest tomorrow morning if the war actually broke out. But by that time, you'll probably hear of it yourself either way. So that's all the news I can report on Kosovo, and that's as far as I know about it. Seems tense. Some people have died. Seems unlikely to break out into actual war, but is possible. And I'll be back in a few hours. Thank you for watching.